This is how we ride. This is how we do.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I came, I saw, and I conquered. I mean, I'm not going to say it that way, but hold on. 2 days ago, we made this video right here. Pastrana and Outlaw title contenders. We talked about how Travis Pastrana has a legit chance to win at Volusia. And then last night, ladies and gentlemen, it happened. Travis Pastrana picked up a win at the Volusia Speedway Park. Now, there has been some people say, oh, well, what Joey Logano did, Travis Pastrana did the same damn thing as Joey Logano, and he didn't get this praise. On the contrary, ladies and gentlemen, Joey Logano did not win. He did come from 19th to 3rd in the worst field of the week. Joey Logano kind of showed up at the end of the week, into the racing week, so they're lining up these features based on difficulty. So the higher A main is where all the badasses are, the main feature. Then the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is ranked on difficulty at Volusia. That's how they're doing these features. And so, like, since Pastrana won last night in that one ranked feature, he'll be moved up. And what Joey Logano did was show up in the later half or later races and went into the lowest ranked race there was and came from 19th to 3rd. And I was critical of this because, hey, it's like he showed up, got into the best race car, and went up against the statistically worst race car drivers and car combinations there were at the Dirt Car Nationals. This, however, was the 3rd day of racing for Travis Pastrana. So he had already been racing, learning at the same time, obviously, and had been moving up in the ranks. And this is his 3rd night, and of course he wasn't in the first feature, the second feature up against Ethan Dotson's and the rest of the bigger names that are there. But there were some really big names in this field. In fact, I saw one guy said he added up 50 national wins and 12 track championships in that A main he was with, other drivers out there in that feature race that he was in. So these guys that he beat weren't slouches. They were good. Wow, what a stacked field. People talking about that. He's fairly talented. He is fairly talented, ladies and gentlemen, because at the end of the day, I said it right here in this post, if you can toss a Subaru into a back road at 100 miles per hour in the World Rallycross Championship, you could compete on dirt. Hashtag Pastrana de Eldor 2023. And that is very true. This isn't Joey Logano, who's going around a racetrack lifting and letting the car drive itself, or going to Daytona and holding the throttle down and just picking lanes on which part of the highway he wants to exit the ramp on. This guy's used to doing stuff that is a little more intense, in my opinion, than dirt track race. There's only one driver out there in the world, in my opinion, that could have a bigger set of balls than a dirt sprint car driver. Just gonna say it. As far as life-threatening scenarios behind the wheel of race cars, and that's the rallycross guys. You know, I've always made fun of NASCAR drivers and said that they are a bunch of farm-raised fish. And in that analogy, it's very true because they are raised in this money system and in this whole scenario in this little bitty farm-raised pond, and they only allow people to come in there who they hand select, and they are racing against all the farm fish that they have over there. Whereas in the sprint car world, in the late model world, I call it a bunch of sharks out there in the wild. You know, it's a bunch of sharks. We're out here in a big ocean of this dirt track land. There ain't no farm-raised pond that we have to compete against. We have to compete against anybody. A big shark can just roll up and wham. Big-time competition. Now, when you get up into that rallycross game, though, you're talking about some, no pun intended, some alligators. Some gators. In my opinion, that's how I would look at it. If we're putting analogies and metaphors in this. The rallycross guys are the gators, the dirt track people are the sharks, and the NASCAR boys are the farm-raised fish in their safe little cars, and their mommy and daddy tell them where all the cars are on the track with their spotters, and they refill their sippy cup when they come to pit lane and try to work on their cars to get a little faster. But these rallycross guys and these dirt track guys out there in America and across the world are some of the most talented drivers and fearless drivers in the world. Rest in peace, Ken Block. I think anybody over there doing what they're doing in rally could come over here and be fairly competitive very quickly just because of the nerve and the ability it takes to drive those race cars. So this is where I've always had a high respect for rallycross racers. And if you want to talk about Travis Pastrana in particular, I mean, yeah, he's going to do Daytona, and he might not do that great at Daytona because you're riding in these cars. You see, when you get sideways on asphalt, the car can't handle it. You can't drive the car. On dirt, you can, though. You know, in these cars, there's limits. And if you cross the limit, you spin out because the car can't handle the talent. That's what happens in NASCAR, in these Cup cars. You can't drive those cars. You're riding in them. And since he's not going to be able to drive those race cars in Cup, especially at Daytona, there ain't no driving about it. It's about picking which lane you want to exit the ramp on. The vehicle's going to determine how good you are. Kyle Larson, once again, greatest example. 6 years in the 42 car, 6 wins. 1 year in a good car, dominates the season, wins the championship first year out in the Hendrick machine. So that shows you how much those race cars can literally take away the driver. But on this dirt stuff, it's a whole nother story. And speaking of that, we talk about Travis Pastrana getting into this modified 3 days ago, first time in it. I mean, look at him. He's already catching up. But if you look at it, 4 days ago, he was up in Canada. He was up there in the snow, tossing cars around. Absolutely on fire. Look at this. So he's doing this on the ice and the snow. And this is why I have respect for these drivers, because these are the drivers I think, like I said in my video, I'm fearful. I'm not necessarily fearful of, but respect these drivers. These are the one drivers out in the world that I think could come to dirt track racing and right off the bat compete. And in my opinion, these are the only drivers in the world that could come right off the bat into our race cars and compete. There ain't no Cup drivers out there. There ain't no drag racers out there. There ain't no Formula One drivers out there that can just show up and start whooping some ass. But these high-level rallycross type drivers, they could come into this sport and win very quickly. Now, when all this happened, I messaged the guy. I said, "See, I told you, get them in your late model right now." And that was I messaged a owner of a very successful chassis company, and he does have a house car. He's actually got a driver in his car down there, and he's got a backup car. And I was like, when y'all go to Volusia, put him in the car. And his message to me, and I'm not going to show you who it is, he said he will be in a Longhorn supercar next week. I said, confirmed? There's a 199 late model next week? He said, yes. I said, with how he did in the mod, it's deserving, but will be 10 times harder to have half the success. He said the dude is amazing, and I told him the 100-mile-per-hour sideways on a dirt back road in the Subaru means you could drive anything. If you could drive a Cup car around the track at Daytona, that don't mean much to me. I see people going down the highway all the time doing what they're doing. I don't see too many people tossing Subarus into a 2-lane back road at 100 miles an hour. That takes skill. That takes ability. So anyways, ladies and gentlemen, sources, pretty reliable sources here tells me Travis Pastrana is in a late model next week. Now, how would that go? I don't know how that will go. I think what he did here was very impressive. The format in the late model scene, though, isn't placing you in a race against similar competition. You have to go up against the best of the best when you jump in that super late model in that format with the World of Outlaw Case Construction Late Model Series. It's going to be extremely difficult for Travis Pastrana to have a hint of success as he did in this modified in that late model against the best boys we got in the business. Can he impress? Yes. Could he win the A-Main? No. And that's not disrespect to Mr. Pastrana, and that's not disrespect to the rallycross industry. I just don't think you could put Hudson O'Neal in a rallycross vehicle and go up against the best of the best and beat him. Do I think you could put him in the amateur ranks? First try or third try out, put him in a 3 days straight behind the wheel of a rallycross vehicle against the amateur rank competitive nature scenario? Could Hudson O'Neal win one of those races? Yeah, but you put him up against the best of the best at those top dog levels? I don't know. It'll take a while. Do I think Travis Pastrana could win in a late model or even a sprint car? I think that would be very interesting. But in a late model, he could. Is it going to happen within a week? No. I think Travis Pastrana would top out at winning a B-Main. But it is good to add a Travis Pastrana to the roster of the dirt track racing world. If we're going to add in Cup drivers in a scenario where they've already manipulated society to think that dirt track racing is AAA, and we're trying to get their fans from Cup and NASCAR already look down on dirt racing, we should be begging a Travis Pastrana to come over that's coming from the rallycross world. That's coming from a world that knows that there are other forms of motorsport in the world that are highly competitive and top forms of motorsport. The fans that follow Travis Pastrana will come to dirt racing with respect, looking up or at least equal to it. And if we can get him in a late model, not only this next week, but throughout the years coming, it will add a respectful group of eyes from another fan base in the rallycross industries and those type of dirt industries to our sport. So I think it's very important that we are excited about this. Bring Travis Pastrana in if the opportunity is there, and we relish at this opportunity that we have for dirt track racing to get some respectful eyes on us. When we bring these cup guys in, the general society already looks at this stuff as high school because that's where they pluck little kids from, like Larson and Bell. They look at this as amateur. But if we get the rallycross fans in, it's respectful eyes, respectful fans, understanding that there are different forms of motorsport in America. And more than likely, those rallycross fans don't like NASCAR because it's kind of boring and they ain't sliding around and sideways up on a wall or anything like that, like the rallycross stuff. But they could probably relate to these super late models and modifieds and sprint cars going in a circle on a dirt oval, sliding sideways and quick, fast, and more like the rallycross form of motorsports. So we could have a really good, interesting situation here where you have NASCAR and IndyCar on top of these road course oval scenarios on asphalt, and maybe an alliance with rallycross and dirt track racing would be a really good opportunity to take up. It's a very interesting situation. Super late model next week. If that rumor comes to fruition, this will be very, very entertaining. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, like the video, share the video, leave your comment below. I always respond to the comments. And as always, be sure to subscribe.
This is how we ride. This is how we do.